Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the JMJ Motorsports channel.
Today we're building engines. Horsepower is being made.
Dose of them, actually. So today, and throughout this next couple days, this video is going to span a few days. We have my 2005 race engine going together.
Yeah, this is your main engine. So and we're gonna do mine. So this is, don't know if this is in frame, but we're doing that's Josh's old engine from last year. It's his 5.9 build. So I bought the block, and we're throwing new internals in it, and we're gonna go fast. Hopefully.
So we'll kind of give you guys a breakdown of what's going into it, and then again, this is not a how-to video on how to build engines or anything like that.
That being said, I mean, there are a couple things that
we'll
point out, but you're not going to learn how to do it from this, unfortunately.
Basically, the easiest way to do it, in my opinion, buy a 12-valve engine.
What is there to lose?
Take it apart and just put it back together. The biggest piece of advice I can tell you in engine building that I've learned, and probably Meyer and everybody else over time, is if you're building a performance engine, it's important to know the factory specifications, but if you're building an engine like this one's supposed to be 15 to 1600 horsepower, you are not going to set up a 15 to 1600 horsepower engine off of the specifications that the factory put a rating of 325 or 400 or 160 if you're a P-pump guy. You need to loosen up some of them, tighten up some of the other ones. And the best thing to do is find somebody that knows what they're talking about and stick with one person from start to finish. Yeah. The worst thing you can do is mix people's advice, and I learned this the hard way.
Mixing different recipes, I mean, it's just not going to turn out great.
So
half apple pie and half peach cobbler,
and it's okay to get more than one. Like for steering stuff, I listen to one person. For suspension stuff, I listen to one person. For engine stuff, now I pretty much kind of reference myself. And all those different, like transmissions, obviously, like Will and Dustin get me taken care of, things like that. But just get advice from one person, because if you get ring gaps from one thing, piston to wall from another guy, piston selection from some other guy, that setup might not work as well as you thought it was going to. So pick a guy that you think is successful, and then use him as a reference point. And if he's not a dick, he'll probably help you out. When it came to cylinder heads, I have built many a stock cylinder head, and so far have been pretty successful. But on this build, I knew I needed to reach out to the best. And in my opinion, Freedom Racing Engines stands out in my mind as one of the best cylinder head and probably long block assemblers in the country. For personal pride reasons and price, I decided to build my own long block. However, for the cylinder head, I did reach out to them. This is not a sponsored thing or anything, but I will say, from order process to what I've seen now, like the guys over there, John and Matt, have always taken care of me, even when I was just buying regular fleece products. The head showed up across the country in 3 days. It showed up in an amazing crate. Nothing was damaged. Everything was packaged really nice. Their heads include, if you get, this is their stage 2 head with the big valves. It came with a Cummins firing set. It looks like they're getting them from Hazley, probably, judging by the label here. So, arguably one of the best firings sets out there. Came in a bag. It was painted. It has, we just sprayed it. We measured all the valve depths on the head. So this is their big valve 6.7 head. And then, as you can see, this still has the shelf. Main reason for the shelf for me was honestly cost. I didn't really have the money after all the other parts we upgraded this year. Didn't have the money to sand or cut the shelf off yet. But this does have their, I believe they're 105 pound valve springs. And you can see here their tool steel locks and retainers. The paint job on the cylinder head was fantastic. They did port it. Comes with an awesome serial number tag on here too. and just everything from the time I gave them my money till the time it showed up till I opened it up. Everything was perfect, and we were just really excited to put this through a season of sled pulling, dirt dragging, dynoing, and drag racing, and maybe some gooseneck trailer towing.
With the shoddy on it, or with the burnout.
And then to go along with this, I do have the fleece bridges. I do have the fleece bridges, which are a carryover from a previous engine. Obviously, they don't go bad, or at least I haven't seen any go bad, so we're going to reuse these. And yeah. Alright, so next we're going to talk about the fuel system for the 05. We reached out to none other than Dynamite Diesel Products. Every time I call up there, whether it's Brian or whether it's Adam, or if you get Matt on the phone or Lenny himself, Harley's awesome too. But we have 2 DDP 12mm strokers. Obviously this one is a reuse. This one came out of the 05. And then instead of running a stock pump, we're going to be running this 12mm stroker from DDP as well. So we'll have 2 12mm DDP strokers.
We also have a pushrod sponsor we'll be talking about in here shortly.
Then we have our DDP Super Mental 04.5 to 07 injectors. These guys really hooked it up. We got 6 injectors, and then they made me a 7th spare in case I have any issues. Not like I'm going to because it's DDP, but if the need arises, I have one. And then they took the courtesy of inscribing 12 valve LOL with the P pump insignia on there with a line through it, which I thought was awesome. I'm always down a dog on the 12 valve guys. And lastly, we have a 6.7 rail, 6.7 lines. DDP polished the rail, ported the rail, did the race mods to it, and then I actually by hand polished all the rails, which took forever. And then, like everybody said, oh, it's going to rust, I went ahead and applied an automotive clear coat to it to help keep the shine for longer. And then obviously we're still going to be using our fleece dual pump kit, our deluxe kit, with 2 air dogs, which are also not sponsored. But in all honesty, DDP did really help us out, so huge thank you to that team. All of our shop trucks are fueled by DDP if they're a common rail, and yeah, put us on the podium quite a few times last year. Looking forward to what 2020 will bring, so huge thank you to those guys. I really appreciate it. Alright, next we're going to talk about some of the Valvetrain stuff. I have this Hamilton cam steel 207 220 cam. We're able to run this steel cam because the block that they have provided us does have all the cam bearings installed. We're going to go ahead and cap that with some Hamilton cams tool steel 1.45 tappets for a 24 valve. Those are a nice piece. We have our Hamilton cams bronze thrust plate. This is what holds the cam from thrusting out of the block. Next, we have our IFG 14mm head studs. Again, these are really beefy. Might even have to ream out the head to get them to fit at least the threaded portion. But really excited to use those. Should clamp our fire ring down really well. And to go along with that, obviously we have our power driven diesel stage 2 24 valve push rods. Our stage 1s are even cool. Like I'm a huge fan of all of our power driven diesel push rods. Stage 1s I've had to over 1500 horsepower. We went with the stage 2s because realistically we were worried about deflection, so we upgraded to the stage 2s. Really excited to put these to use again. And we may or may not be reaching out to Trevor Manton at Manton Push Rods and see about some roller rockers. As of right now, I don't have them. I planned on using the factory stuff with a DLC coated trunnion, but I may actually buy those. I'm not sure. It's not that they're a bad product, it's just a lot of money. Alright, so you've seen some of the parts we're putting in this block, including that nasty head. So we needed a block that was better than a stock block. Didn't have any issues with the 20 over block. However, the power that we're looking to make and the timing we're going to be able to put in the tune-up with the billet rods, we had to do something better. So we reached out to Hamilton Cams, deal with Zach, Mitch, Clint, all three of those guys. Obviously top-notch guys. They always get us taken care of using their cam, their tappets. And then we have their 300 MPa high test block. This block normally comes 6.7 base block with a 5.9 bore. We went ahead, punched it out to a 6.7 true displacement engine. And given our calculations, this block is only 5% weaker than a sleeve down 6.7 block, a 4.125 or a 6.4 with a 6.7 crank. So those blocks seem to be good, 2,400 horsepower. I don't see any reason why this one shouldn't be able to do 1,800 to 2,000 without even batting an eyelash. And the big thing for me was I didn't want to lose displacement. We are at 5,800 feet above sea level. I need all the cubic inches that I can get. And it's a wet block. It's a true wet block. It has cylinder cooling on both sides of the Siamese bore. It has a full working oil cooler, water pump, everything else. This is not a solid block. To cap that off, it comes with all 7 cam bearings pressed into it, so I can run their steel cams, which are stronger than the cast. And then just a little cherry on top, 14 mil mains come pre-installed in here, or pre-drilled and tapped, I guess you would say, just like the old 12 valve blocks, so you can get a really good crankshaft clamp on this block without resorting to extra machining or expensive girdles, things of that nature. And then it also has 14 mil main or head studs, which we're also excited about. But again, this block, one of the more cost-effective ones that Hamilton offers, so we're really excited. Haven't really seen too many people push it, so hopefully we can kind of get some good data for them on it. Harbor Freight engine stand. And then we have an OEM Cummins crank gear that Jameson went ahead and welded on. Obviously we're going to slap a fluid dampener on here. Those guys always get us taken care of. We'll have their max RPM kit and their 6.7 damper. And then we have a Hamilton 6.7 crank. After talking with the machine shop on both the block and the crank, they had nothing but great things to say about these Hamilton products. They did say the block cut a little bit harder, so it's good to know that it took a little bit extra time. And yeah, everything we get from Hamilton, been really thrilled about. This crank spins. I mean, we have two main caps in here. We're checking a bunch of clearances, measuring and stuff right now. But I mean, it's a nice piece, and we're really excited to put some power through it. All right, so there was a few of us that needed a set of rods.
Just a few. And the few needed more than just a few.
Yeah, so as you guys remember from one of our first videos that we did together, I had a set of 12 valve rods in the 6.Great engine.
Yep. And I think up until that point, a lot of us were planning on running 12 valve rods in our builds.
I think so.
Nah, not anymore. That was kind of an eye-opener for all of us.
So we're at a problem. Billet rods go for $3,000, $2,600 a set, and money don't grow on trees. So we teamed up with Wagler Competition Products. Special thank you to Austin and Jeremy Wagler himself. They got us set up. They sent us 4 sets of rods. Huge help.
Yeah.
Obviously, they took care of us, and that's why we feel the decency to go through these and kind of show you guys why we like these Wagler Street Fighters so much. So I have a set for my main engine. I have a set for my backup engine.
And I have a set for my engine. It's going to be a 5.9.
And then Jameson has a set as well.
For his 6.7.
Yep. So the big thing that we like about the Wagler rods, there's several. First one that I find to be the most important is the price point.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm a cheap butt, and so I mean, the price point was a huge thing.
So these are $1,850 retail for a set, and these come, again, these are billet rods. They have nice machining on them. Honestly, for an as forged rod, I was really impressed at how well, you know, the architecture was.
Yeah, they look great. Like, I mean, you don't normally look at your rods. I mean, once they're in your engine, they kind of just hide there. But I mean, they look like they're plenty stout.
And you can see some things. So on this rod, obviously this is an I-beam style rod. It does, one of the things that we really like is it does have a oil relief machined into the cap. That's something that Carrillo does not do until you buy their HD rod. Wagler does this on every set of rods that they have, which is a huge, I mean, we end up machining the standard Carrillos anyway, so it just saves a step, a little bit extra touch that, you know, means to me less work, and it means that they actually cared about the product they were making. They put a good bushing in here. It's not a K style bushing, however, the bushing that they put in here does direct oil to the top, and it fits nice in the rod, fits nice on the crank. We've already measured a few of these. They've been extremely consistent getting clamped on the crankshafts themselves, like no more than a quarter thou between them. And honestly, you could chalk that up to crank machining, you could chalk that up to bearing differences. But yeah, another huge thing that's really important to us is that they're made in America.
America, yeah.
You know, if you make a product in America and, you know, you're willing to sell it, you know, hats off to you. It's a shitty market to try and make stuff in America these days when I'm sure China could probably make a set of rods, you know, for $200-300.
And they'd probably be almost as strong as 12-valve rods.
Yeah, they probably would. Definitely not close to this. Meyer, why don't you tell me a little bit about these bolts that they're using on these rods, because these are not a factory bolt.
I think it says it's the ARP L19, which I'm going to be fair, I'm new to this performance world, so Josh is probably better at telling you exactly how awesome these bolts are, but I know they're on the upper end.
What kind of diameter do we have?
They're a 1/2-inch bolt.
Wow. Half-inch rod bolt.
Half-inch rod bolt.
So a 1/2-inch ARP rod bolt, L19, which, if you're familiar with some of the products that we sell at Power Driven Diesel, we have a Hazley 12-point rod bolt for a factory rod. They're also made out of L19, so they used a great base material to make this. There is a 625 rod bolt that Wagler offers in their top of the line. Again, for what we're trying to do, they rate these rods at 1,500 horsepower. And Austin and Jeremy, if you watch this, that's pretty sweet, number one. Number two, I do plan on putting 1,800 horsepower through your rods. And you know what, guys, if they fail, they fail. You rated them at 1,500. But given some of the FEA analysis we looked at on these rods and what we've seen capable of your top of the line rods in our the Boss's UCC trucks, I really do think you guys knocked it out of the park with this. So again, not even because you guys gave us a good price point, but because you guys really do push the limit. You guys have helped us on a lot of our in-house engine builds with your guys' billet rods. Thank you guys. And then, Mara, why don't you tell me, a lot of rods use a dowel to cap it. How does Wagler do it?
Well, I just figured out the other day when I opened up my new pack of rods, but they have a really cool way. They machined it in a receiving groove into the rod itself and the cap. And it's really, also, one thing I thought was really cool is that, like, first thing I took it off, I was like, oh crap, which way does it go back? It doesn't go in the wrong way. So that was, that's the simple thing to me.
Rookie proof.
Rookie proof.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. And it's a nice snug fit. Like, you have to like tap it.
Don't do that.
with a hammer to get it off.
So when you first get these, they send them pre-lubed, and they include another tube of ARP lube for final installation. So they torque them when they ship them, and once you break the bolts free, you're gonna have to take a rubber mallet and beat these caps
carefully.
off.
But yes.
Calibrated tapping, like, you know.
For sure.
Quick double tap. And what we like about these is because they're cut at 45, or I guess maybe what, 25, 30 degree angle.
Like 15.
Roughly. Alright, whatever. I'm not a geometrist. But they can't move side to side. Like, literally the angle keeps them secure. And unlike the doweled caps that you would see in like a Carrillo, an Apex, a Pro Max, I'm not sure about the D&J rods, so I can't speak to that. But the only other company I've ever seen machine a rod like this was Hazley makes a rod with a similar kind of doweling. And what's nice about it is when you go to install it, there is no chance for you to mess up the dowling. I have in fact damaged some of the other rod manufacturers' caps installing them. I'm not a professional engine builder. I'm a sales
guy.
Just a sales guy.
Tech
So
support.
it can happen. And then the other cool thing we love about these rods is that they use the 12 valve bearing, which is what most performance billet rods use. It allows us to get into some nice performance cleavite bearings.
Now here's a question I actually have. I noticed that they've got 2 notches. One, I assume one's for 12 valve. Is that the other one for Conrail or what's the
I actually don't know.
Interesting. James mentioned thought it was for Conrail. So that'd be
possible,
that'd
but
be
a
swanky.
fractured cap bearing would not fit in this. So I'm not actually sure why they have 2 notches, but you know, you got yourself a nice billet rod that doesn't break the bank with a really good quality fastener with these ARP L19 half-inch, and you know they show up boxed really well. They come in a nice, nice Wagler box. They're in that nice brown paper that's oil soaked, so they don't rust, and they're all torqued, so you can't mix it up. Comes with the ARP lube. I mean, the only thing you're really missing is like a nice cold.
You're missing an engine to put it in.
You're missing like a Bush Latte and a back scratch, back robe, Mandalorian.
We found Mandalorian and engine builds don't really mix.
Yeah.
The moment you say, I'm going to watch an episode and then go and build an engine, you just end up watching 4 episodes. It's unfortunate, but hey, you know, you gotta pace yourself.
And so far, we've tried them on a 5.9 wide bowl Molly piston. The wrist pin fit great in the wrist pin end of the rod, and then as you can see here, these are our 6.7 QSB piston that are going in my engine, and they fit amazing on here. Everything was in spec. So again, if you're looking for a billet rod for your 1500 horsepower and below engine and don't feel like shelling out $2,400 on a set of the fancier rods, the Wagler ones, I mean realistically once you put them in the engine you're never going to see them again, hopefully, unless they come out the side. And yeah, they basically took a rod, made it super strong, didn't do all the finish machine, and passed on the savings to the end customer, which
if it wasn't for these rods, I probably wouldn't have. I'd be sitting on a 12 valve rod and praying for success.
with compounds.
With compounds. Gordon would be quite busy trying to get that torque out.
So, again, Wagler did help us out on these, but the first set I bought of these, I just kind of bought on a whim, and everything we've seen with them from the experience of other diesel enthusiasts that I've talked to personally, like dollar for dollar, bang for bang, this is probably one of the best supporting upgrades you can do for a more budget-minded setup.
Yeah.
So, for that, you get a thumbs up, guys.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it.
And although Jameson could not be here,
yes,
he also says thank you.
He's ripping up some dirt with a scooter right now.
Dirt scooters.
But he's got his own set of these, which I think is these ones right here. And he's going to be doing his own engine build. He's still working on getting the part together. We're just kind of trying to sail through it. We're trying to make a March 7th.
March 7th, the Gauntlet Challenge. We'll be there.
Trying to get the dyno ready. Maybe not race ready, but dyno ready. So as long as it can hold power in one gear, we'll be there.
Overdrive. Lock up.
Done.
Woo. Wow, this was a long episode.
Yeah. Okay, so we were actually planning on doing that quick intro and then actually building engines. But that's not going to happen. Josh really just wanted to flex on the camera and me, I think, just a little bit, talk about all his parts. So, anyway, I think that's the end of this video.
Dude, whatever. Sometimes when you're making, I would say that one of the easier engine builds you do is that 1,000 horsepower mark.
Yeah. And, okay, that's something I just got done talking, but I'm just going to go in again and say that this engine is kind of like a budget build for me to kind of like get my hands wet. It's like, there's a lot of, it's easy to put a stock engine together and then make stock power with it because you have a manual that tells you how to do that. Once you start trying to make a 1,000 horse engine, you learn a lot of little tricks. Oh, if you do this and that, it'll help, fight this problem, fight that problem. So I'm kind of learning that a bunch, as well as, I don't know what that look was for, as well as it's a good way to just get into the performance world. And so the next engine, I'll have a lot more idea what I want. Oh, I do not want to daily drive a 10,000 piston wall. Weird shock. I never have thought that. This guy, dude, his advice is always just send it. You'll be fine. You're coming from a 12 valve. How could it possibly be worse?
One of the best pieces of advice I ever got for ring gaps and piston wall came from a guy named Dylan Brown. I think he's out in Tennessee. And his words of advice to me were,
I think I know this.
if it's too tight, everyone will know. If it's too loose, only you will know. So, unlike many other things in this world where tight is right, loose
This goose.
is good.
Goose. Good.
So
Anyway, yeah, I think we're gonna shoot down this video. We're done. Next episode or video will be.
peace out!
Whoa! Dude, you just shoved me into your block.